Rage on that beat, going crazy.
So I've been using this Cammus C5 bundle for over a year now, and I thought this would be a very good time to put out a long-term review about the bundle. I purchased this bundle with my own money from Cosmic Byte on July 2025, and this video is not sponsored by any brand that I mentioned in this video. So Cosmic Byte has this bundle available for 30 to 35,000 on their site, and they do provide discount coupons on their checkout, so you can get it a little bit cheaper. So in the bundle, you get C5 wheel, you get CP5 pedals, and this desk lamp. So we're going to talk about all the official specification of the wheel, all the features that you get with it, and since this is a long-term review, we will also talk about the durability and the reliability of the product. Alright, so let's talk about Cammus CP5 Pedal. This pedal set comes with 2 pedal, accelerator and a brake, and they use a magnetic sensor system instead of old school potentiometer system, which in my opinion is the best thing about this pedal because it makes them more reliable. Both pedal has a metal arm attached to them, and this metal arm has a magnet, so the hub in the center tracks this magnet, and that is how it detects the input. Since this direct drive bundle is aimed at a entry-level market, I think these pedals are more than serviceable for what they are, and they provide a good entry point to get you started. So when I received the bundle, one of the pedal had a lot of dead zone, and it turns out the magnetic arm that I was talking about was not in the correct position, which meant I had to manually move it to its correct place. I wish as a consumer we didn't have to do this, but the solution was pretty simple, so it was not a deal breaker. So I used this pedal set for a short amount of time for testing, and they work well, but as I said, these are very simple pedal and they are there just to get you started. So if you buy this bundle and you want to take sim racing as a serious hobby down the line, I would recommend you to upgrade the pedal first. One thing I would also like to mention about these pedals is that these pedals develop a creaking sound over time. And I had to use a grease spray which worked, but then the creaking eventually returned. So this could be related to the actual spring that is attached in the pedal, or maybe it could be related to my environment, my room temperature, humidity, etc. But I never faced this issue with my Moza pedal, so I thought it's worth mentioning. Alright, so moving on to the desk lamp, you can use this desk lamp to mount the wheel directly to your sim brake, or you can use these to mount it on your desk. So the installation process is very straightforward and simple. Everything you need is included in the manual, and I'm personally using the desk lamp to mount the wheel directly to my sim brake. So all of that out of the way, let's move to the start of the show, the wheel itself, the Cammus C5. Starting with the design of the wheel, at first I was not really a big fan of how it looked, but as I used it more and more, it started to kind of grow on me, and now it really doesn't bother me. And since majority of the time I use a VR headset, I don't really see the wheel anyway. I would like to add that this wheel kind of reminds me of Alpine GT4 steering wheel. The overall aesthetic and the shape kind of looks similar, which is kind of cool in my opinion. And also the main contributing factor to how it looks is the technology that is being used here. So in typical direct drive system, you have a base and you have a steering wheel that you connect to that base, but in the Cammus C5 that is not the case at all. So in the case of Cammus C5, the wheel in the base is a single unit, which gives it a small form factor and it makes it very compact. And it's also a contributing factor to how this compact wheel can reach 7 Newton meters of peak torque. So the technology that is being used here is quite cool and unique, and it also kind of helps Cammus to stand out from the rest. I did find a video on Cammus YouTube channel on how the C5 works and the technology behind it. So if you want to give it a look, the link will be in the description. It is pretty cool. Now talking about the design, let's talk about one of the most controversial thing about the C5, which has to be its pedal shifters. So the original Cammus C5 and the one that I have come with these small plastic shifters. So a lot of people were talking about that these are made out of plastic, which makes them very easy to break, and other people were talking about the comfort, that their finger is just not able to reach them, they are too small. So personally speaking, I didn't really have an issue regarding the comfort. I was able to reach them pretty well. The only thing that I was nervous about is that these are made out of plastic and I might break them. Some of you might have already noticed that I'm using the upgraded metal shifter pedals and not these one. We'll talk about that a bit later in the video. So as far as I know, if you buy a brand new Cammus C5 right now, you will get the upgraded version with the metal shifter pedals and the upgraded rotary encoders. The one thing that I'm a bit disappointed about is the fact that Cammus C5 doesn't come with button stickers. You do get a sticker for rotary encoders, but to be honest, they are pretty useless. But yeah, overall the wheel feels very nice, the grip is great, and it feels very premium, especially with these metal pedal shifters. Alright, so let's start with my first impression and actually using the wheel. So the first time I connected this wheel to my system, it did not work. I kept getting this error code, which according to Cammus means the voltage is too high, but fortunately I was able to fix it with a firmware update. So let's talk about the performance a bit. And before this I had a G29, and the difference between this and a G29 is pretty substantial. So in terms of the feedback quality and the power output, the G29 just cannot compete with this. Being a direct drive wheel, the wheel is super smooth and it's super quiet during operation. The response time is just amazing and it instantly reacts to the force feedback of the game. It makes catching the car and correcting a mistake really easy, which naturally means that if you're into drifting, this is going to be a very good option for you. Personally speaking, I'm not really into drifting, and having a G29 made it a bit difficult for me to learn how to drift, because you may already know G29 is very slow and sluggish, which makes it a bit harder to counter steer. Now I know there are people out there who can drift with ease on a G29. I'm clearly not one of those people, but I always still wanted to learn how to drift, and Cammus C5 really helped me there. Now I'm still new and I'm still learning how to drift, but I would say I have made a good amount of progress with the wheel. So yeah, considering that this is a entry-level product in the direct drive market, the performance and the overall value that it provides is just amazing. The force feedback quality is just great. You can feel the roads, you can feel the bumps, you can feel all the curves, you can feel the texture of the road, and overall the value that this wheel provides is just amazing. But please keep in mind that this is my first direct drive wheel and I have not tried any other direct drive wheel in the market yet. Now Cammus has some high-end products on the lineup like the Cammus C12 and load cell pedal, which I might try in the future. Cammus, if you are watching this, you know where to find me. So now let's talk about some of the technical difficulties that I had with the wheel. So the first technical difficulty I faced with the wheel is related to the USB. So a few times when I connected the wheel to a different USB port on my system, basically disconnecting it and connecting it again to a different USB port, the system would just not detect the wheel at all, and even disconnecting it and connecting it back to the original USB port, it still didn't work. So this used to happen at least twice a week back when I purchased it. So over time with software and firmware updates, I have not faced this issue in a while, which is good. The second issue that I was facing and which almost made the wheel unusable for me is the random disconnects. So what would happen as I'm playing a game, the wheel just randomly disconnects. So I actually don't have a recording of this happening, but basically it would just disconnect during gameplay after like 5 minutes. And this used to happen with every single game without fail. So disconnecting and reconnecting the USB would fix the problem, but eventually it will disconnect again during gameplay. I tried to connect it to a different power socket, I tried downgrading the firmware, and after trying a lot of things, I eventually found a workaround to fix this, which is enabling the 2-in-1 mode in the Cammus software. So normally the Cammus C5 shows up in the software as two different products, the base and the steering wheel. So when you turn on the 2-in-1 mode, it would just show the wheel and the base as a single unit. And after enabling the 2-in-1 mode, the disconnection issue was just gone. I just used it like that for a few months and I completely forgot about it. But then I bought F125 and it turned out that that game doesn't detect the wheel when the 2-in-1 mode is enabled. So just to play F125, I had to disable the 2-in-1 mode, and surprisingly the disconnection issue was not there anymore. So during those months they released a few firmware updates, and I think one of those firmware updates fixed the issue. So now I've been just using it with 2-in-1 mode disabled without any issues, until recently when I was recording the Dirt Rally 2.0 footage for this video. And unfortunately I was not recording at the time, I was just setting up the controls. But it happened only once that time, which was 2 days ago, and since then I have not faced that issue again. So I'm still not quite sure if it's completely fixed. Alright, so moving on to the third and last technical issue, it was the left pedal shifter. So the button switch that is used in the left shift pedal, it went bad. So the left shift pedal was registering false inputs and sometimes multiple false inputs. So let's say for an example, if I was in 5th gear and I wanted to downshift to 4th, pressing the downshift pedal once, it would take me to 3rd instead of 4th, and sometimes even to 2nd gear. At first I thought it might just be dust and eventually it will go away, but unfortunately it didn't. So I decided to look into it a bit deeper and I took out the left pedal shifter to expose the switch. So the Cammus C5 seems to be using some type of dual button configuration. So when you look at the switch, it has 2 buttons instead of 1, and it turned out that one of the button had developed a fault, and that was actually the culprit. I tried to fix it myself by bypassing the faulty button completely using soldering, but that didn't really work out and it was already under warranty, so I reached out to support. So I reached out to both Cosmic Byte and Cammus support, and after a lot of back and forth over the email, they agreed to send me the upgraded shifter pedal with the switch included. So I raised the complaint on June 29 and I received the replacement on July 20. Was just able to replace the switch and the plastic pedal shifters with the metal one, and everything just worked perfectly. I would also like to add that the Cammus support and the Cosmic Byte support were a big help, so yeah, a big shout out to them. So talking about the software, the Cammus software is very straightforward and easy to use. They also have a smartphone application, which means you can change the setting of the wheel from your smartphone as well. So I'm not going to talk about all the sliders and the option in this video because it will just make this video too long. If you want a separate video dedicated to Cammus software only, I can do that, so just let me know in the comments. So let's talk about some of the cons of the C5. And to be honest, some people might not consider these as cons at all. So the first con is the LED display compatibility. As you probably noticed in some of the gameplay footage, the LED display does not work with all games, at least for me. But there are some examples like LMU where I've seen it's working for other people but it's not working for me. Maybe it's because when a developer pushes an update for the game, it breaks the LED display function and then Cammus has to update the software again. And now, as I said, some people might not have issue with that, people like me who use VR, but I think it's still something worth mentioning. The second con has to be the small pedal shifters, but again, as I said, it depends person to person. For me, they worked well, and again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, if you buy a new Cammus C5, you will get the upgraded metal pedals anyway. And the third con is the lack of an ecosystem and expandability. So if you buy a Cammus C5, you just get what you get. You cannot change the steering wheel, you cannot change the base. Now there are aftermarket mods and upgrades available for the Cammus C5, but most of them require you to take your wheel apart, which a lot of people might not be comfortable with. But yeah, as I said, this might not be a con for you. If you're one of those people that want a direct drive wheel, you do not care about ecosystem or upgradability, you just want a good value for money direct drive wheel, then I don't think this should affect you at all. Now in the Cammus C5 page, I can see there is a mod called Ace Morph Wheel mod, which seems like a very cool modular rim mod for the C5. I will try to get my hands on it and give you guys a review. Cammus, hit your boy up. Another con is that this wheel only supports PC, not PS5, not Xbox, which again, if you only have a PC, you don't really care about that. Now I'll move on to some of the feedback that I have for Cammus and something they can improve upon. These are the things that I think can be fixed easily, but they are not a deal breaker by any means. So when I was browsing through Cammus website, I often came across SSL certificate errors, and sometimes even on the software download page where you get the software, which is kind of dangerous. Speaking of which, the software download speed was very slow for me as well.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What?
There are a few things in Cammus software as well, like you cannot resize the window, and when you're using multiple display, the software just freezes on one display, which means you cannot move it from that display to another display. In Cammus software, there is community profile features, but they can improve it a bit more. For example, adding features like rating a profile, liking a profile, and maybe show like a download count, like how many people have downloaded the profile. And the last small thing, but something that I find a bit annoying, is when you try to turn off the wheel, there is no beep or no type of feedback. So basically you have to press and hold the power button to turn it off, but it only turns off when you release the button, and you need to hold the button for at least like 1.5 seconds, and it will turn off when you release the button. So many times when I press and hold the button and I release it, it doesn't turn it off because I didn't hold it long enough. So I hope in the future they add some type of feedback. For example, if you press and hold the button, it will go to let you know that you can let go of the button. But yeah, again, these are just some of the small feedbacks that I have. Alright, so finally let's talk about should you buy the Cammus C5 in 2026 and if this wheel is for you or not. So let's say you already have a G29 and you're looking to move to direct drive platform. You don't care about upgradability and the ecosystem, you just want a good first direct drive experience. Then definitely Cammus C5 is not going to disappoint you. For people that are thinking of buying a Cammus C5 as their first wheel, I'd honestly stop for a minute and think about the games that you want to play on the wheel. If you're one of those people that only care about Forza Horizon and you don't plan on using the wheel regularly, then I honestly don't recommend you to buy a direct drive wheel just to play games like that. You'll be better off just buying a used G29 or another belt and gear driven wheel. Notice that I said used, because buying a new belt or gear driven wheel in 2026 doesn't really make sense. So yeah, if you just want to play like Forza Horizon, then you should definitely just get a cheap second-hand Logitech G29 bundle, because game like Forza Horizon, they might not be able to use the full potential of a dead dry wheel anyway. Now don't get me wrong, in Forza Horizon 6 they have made a good improvement in force feedback compared to Forza Horizon 5, but yeah, wheels like G29 it will serve you very well for games like Forza Horizon. Now if you're in the market to buy a new wheel and you do not want to buy a second-hand product, then definitely you can consider buying a Cammus C5, and you can even look at other brands like Moza. They have their R3 bundle, which will give you the benefit of Moza ecosystem, but the R3 base can only reach 3 Newton meters of peak torque, which is noticeably less compared to Cammus C5, which can reach 7 Newton meters of peak torque. So there are advantages and disadvantages of all the options. Now I have heard rumors that Moza will be releasing the updated R5 bundle with an aggressive pricing, but we'll just have to wait and see when it comes out, I guess. And just like that, we have reached the end of the video, and aside from the technical difficulties that I have mentioned before, I do believe that this is a really great value for money product, and there is a high chance that if you buy a Cammus C5, you will get the updated version, and that updated version doesn't have all these technical issues. So yeah, take care of yourselves, and I will see you guys soon. Hey guys, it's me here again. Just want to let you know that I have listed all of the information about my gaming setup down in the description. So if you see any item from the list that piques your interest, just let me know down in the comments and I will try to get a review out for it. As you can see, I have a lot of things here and I've been using some of these products for a very long time. So naturally, I have a lot of things to say about each and every product here. So yeah, just let me know down in the comments and I will see you again. Take care of yourselves.